All right, welcome guys to the number 2 preseason training call, known as the Essential Call. So we're joined here in Montreal with Phil Pecco, also known as the Wolf himself. This guy, I've known this guy for so long. We go back 4 years ago. 2 years ago, we're co-manager of the year. Last year was the manager of the year. So this guy knows about leadership. I'll let himself introduce himself a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it all right here. We were actually co-rookie managers of the years together, so me and Nilo, we know each other for a while. I mean, you guys need to get excited about this call. There's a lot of great stuff coming up here. As you can tell, we're French, okay? So you have to forgive us for our English. He sells in Quebec City. I sell in Montreal here. Just picture yourself on your first day, how much you're going to want to remember the stuff that you're learning right now. Really important stuff, so buckle up, guys.
What we sell? Well, we sell peace of mind. And we also sell pest control, okay? So that's what we sell with pest control, is really peace of mind to customers. We're not out there going inside houses, seeing like massive rats infestation, carpet ants infestation, walls coming down. That is not what we're doing. What are we doing? We're knocking on doors and we're selling people a recurring pest control agreement, making sure that they have peace of mind. What are most people going to notice? You're going to see a couple ants on the outside, sand coming out of the pavement starts to crack up. Nobody likes that, obviously. The lady comes outside. She gets a spider in her face. She hates it. Calls the husband to come, takes it down. They get tired of that. What are they going to love about us? We obviously take care of the spiders as well. In winter time, they get a couple of mice activity in the outside. 1, 2 gets inside. That's where we come in. We just really sell peace of mind. We make sure they have a good time. They pay for a house that can be worth $400,000, $600,000, $1 million. This is pretty cheap compared to what the home price is, and so they just want to acquire that peace of mind. Obviously, like, we're not here doing one-time shots, that kind of stuff. We brought recurring pest control, and the last 10 years we made it the best thing ever.
Elo loves talking about pest control. So do I. But yeah, I mean, this service is a great service, mainly because of the approach of which we do it. We do a seasonal service, which is kind of, we're one of the only ones in Canada to actually do it that way. And we're now, Insight is the biggest, we can say it's the best as much as we want. It is the best, it's the best rated. I think there's like 4.9 stars and many, many Google reviews.
Yeah, I mean, if you touch on that quickly, shout out to all the technician. I mean, we've got 3,700 reviews in the Montreal branch. Each tech coming to customers, asking them for reviews. I mean, we have amazing tech. So shout out to all the service team. Let's give them an applause right now. I mean, they do such an amazing job. Like I said, I love talking about pest control. I'm talking about this business. Same thing in Toronto. I think we got over 3,000 reviews over there too. So that's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, no, to continue on what I was saying, obviously, yeah, I mean, this is a very, very great service, really well rated, but we're also we're the largest residential pest control company in the country. And the reason why, well, Insight is really, really good, a big part of it is because the senior level management of Insight is also the senior level management of Vantage, which is the sales part of it. Me and Nilwa, as of not too long ago, we're now partners also in the business. We're actually in your shoes just about 3 years ago, and just starting out as rookies, just starting out into sales. But there's also a path to ownership in the long run, right? Where we can obviously now have a more impactful impact, I guess, on the inside as well, not just Vantage, right? So yeah, we're selling a service that people need. We're selling a service that people like. People at the end of the sale, oftentimes, we're just gonna be thankful for us, and you'll get to see how great the service is yourselves, during the summer, by selling it with the customers, and you'll see that's something that people need and something people like.
Fantastic.
Hey guys, my name is Jordan Fiddler. I am the sales manager with Montreal West. I'm also an equity partner of Insight Pest Solutions and going into my 6th year with Vantage Marketing. So needless to say, I've knocked on a lot of doors over my time and have sold a lot of pest control. The real reason that I love to knock doors and why you guys are going to love to knock doors and why it's a great place to start your sales career, at the end of the day, it's really just the most raw, pure form of sales that you can think of. You'll notice that a lot of billionaires and very, very successful people have started their sales career in door-to-door sales. At the end of the day, it's one human speaking to another human about product. And our product just happens to be pest control. And there's a big difference when you're approaching the customer and you're going to them with the product as opposed to just waiting for them to come to us, especially in the realm of pest control. What typically would happen is they'll wait and wait and wait until it becomes a problem, a legitimate infestation on their home, and then they'll ring up the exterminator on the internet, or back in the day, the yellow pages, and the exterminator will be happy to take their business. And at the end of the day, they just got them between a rock and a hard place, and they're just going to charge them a lot more. And it's warranted. If these homeowners do wait until it becomes a problem, the pests are on the inside of the home. It's just a lot more expensive, time-consuming, tedious, and a heck of a lot harder to get the pests out and once they're in. So what we're able to do is approach these homeowners before it comes to that stage. So the proactive approach is absolutely the best route to take for these homeowners, because they also feel just a sense of accomplishment that they were able to make the decision to take action on their home and give themselves a pat on the back that they made the great decision for it to not become a problem. So it's really important that you put on the bug guy or the bug girl persona out there. You got to remember that people are going to be watching you and having eyes on you at all times, whether that's the home that you're physically at, or you're knocking on a home and maybe it's the neighbor across the street or someone walking their dog. You just want to make sure that you're putting on a big smile and you're waving to everyone, because at some point or another, you're going to be speaking to that person, and the pre-impression starts even before you're on their physical door. It starts the minute that you get out of the car and you start walking around the neighborhood, and people are going to know and learn that you're there, and you definitely want to use that to your advantage. You're also going to become very, very familiar with what we call the sales cycle. And the way that we use this in the sales process, and the reason it's called a cycle is because you're going to be going through it quite a few times with the homeowner. In a perfect world, you give an amazing opening pitch and you really talk about the pest, and the person hates the pest, and you ask for the sale and they say, hey, let's do it, let's sign up. That's going to happen from time to time, but often you're going to have to overcome some objections. You're really going to have to put their mind at ease and really build the value. So it's a win-win situation where they win by buying the pest control, needing it and wanted it, and you win by making the sale as well. So the stages of the sales cycle include the pre-impression, the opening pitch, create the need, meet the need, close, and overcoming the hurdles. So going back to the pre-impression, this is what the homeowner sees before sometimes you even knock on their door. Maybe you walk up and they're on the front porch, or maybe you enter the backyard and they're sitting there. Humans are judgmental by nature, so we just want to use that to our advantage. So you just want to make sure that your shirt's tucked in, you're clean cut, no big watches or rings, your hat's nice and straightforward, and you always have a big smile on. I can't tell you how important that is to look friendly and again, look like the bug guy or the bug girl out there, as well as the opening pitch. So this is going to be the 10 to 15 kind of opening language that you give to the homeowner to really gain their attention and explain to them who you are and why you're there and how you can be a value to them. And it's very important that you let them know right off the bat that you are doing a bunch of the neighbors in the area, what we refer to as third party. And it's just going to demonstrate that you're not a student who's doing this for the first time, but a sales professional, and that you deserve their attention and that they're going to give it to you. After the opening pitch, you want to get them off the doorstep and start doing an inspection, and you're going to start to create the need. So you're going to explain to them and explain to them by being a detective, and you're going to find problems on their home. So you're going to walk through and notice some anthills and some spider webs and some wasp nests and some mouse droppings as well. And then you're going to be an educator or a teacher as to why they should get rid of this and why it's important to take action and the consequences of not doing so. Next in the sales cycle, you're going to meet the need. And this is where your product knowledge comes into place, aka what the technician's actually going to do on the home to get rid of the problem and to meet the need that you've created in the previous step. The next step is going to be the close. So this is going to be the call to action, the actual commitment from the homeowner to sign up for the pest control service. And if all the other steps are done properly, the close should be the most subtle, easiest part of the sale because you've created so much need. You've made your product sing and dance. In their mind, they can't even imagine how they've gone so long without pest control, and they're just going to sign up for the service. Sometimes, however, you're going to have some hurdles to overcome, and these can be in the form of excuses, questions, concerns, or objections. And we're just going to teach you how to identify each one, the difference among them, and how to properly respond. You're then going to go back through the cycle, create the need, meet the need, you gauge the temperature of the customer, and then you close at the right time. It's not quite the right way to just close, overcome a hurdle, and go exactly back to the close. That's just going to come off pushy and salesy, and that's just going to make you the typical door-to-door salesperson, and that's what we don't want to do. So we're not trying to make you a student who's selling pest control over the summer. We're going to make you a sales professional. And the next step coming up, we will get into the steps of the process itself and give you an even further breakdown.
All right, guys, we're going to skip the pre-impression and go right into the opening pitch, all right? So first of all, everybody in the chat, put a door emoji if you've listened to Door-to-Door Millionaire, okay? All right, let's see who studied, let's see who hasn't studied. So I'll talk about the first 3 questions that the customer is going to think when he opens the door. There's 3 things the customer is going to wonder in their mind. Some of you already know it. Put it in the chat as well. We're going to have who are you, what are you doing at my door, and what are you offering? Okay, so these are 3 main things you're going to be answering right as you're pitching, essentially, right? There's a few other things you're going to be doing, including building some credibility, building some time urgency, and then you're going to transition to creating the need. Okay, I'll talk about my favorite question about that. So first of all, you're knocking on the door. You're going to have, before that, you're actually going to break the ice. So you're just going to open up and say your name. You're like, hey, how you doing? Sorry for bothering you. Right? You're going to open up that way. I have it in French, so désolé de vous déranger. Bonjour, ça va bien, genre d'affaires-là. Et donc, à quoi ça ressemble ensuite? What is it going to look like? Sorry, guys, I flipped into French. About that, so after the opening speech is going to be like mostly just saying, yeah, just you with insight, and then you're going to build some credibility, right? That's one thing you don't have at the door. You know, do it pretty quickly. I really like to mention the neighbors I'm going to be doing around the neighborhood. So, hey, we're doing Mark. He's got the red Tesla. Perhaps maybe you know him. We're also going to be at John's house on the Wednesday. He's got a little dog that always barks in the afternoon. Or really simple, keep it simple. I'll be doing 20 of the neighbors on Wednesday, okay? So I like to keep it pretty simple at that point. Now, the reason why we say that is because we have 0 credibility. They don't know who we are. For them, we're just a stranger trying to steal their wallet, okay? So we got to make sure that they're not just like the hamster of the neighborhood. We've done this to other people. They've liked it. They like us. They trusted us. now they can also trust us. So that's why we're going to be drop naming, as we call it, the neighbors. Okay. After that, we're just going to go into why we're at the home. Why we're at their home? Well, we're the bug guy. So we're going to be servicing, we're going to be doing people for the bugs. So I just introduce them, tell them that right after I'm talking about third party. Reason we're seeing them is just for the bugs. They'll be seeing some of these ants, some of the spiders, a couple of the ants outside, a couple of spiders in the eaves. And then I'll just transition right into what I'm offering them. Reason why I'm a doorman right now, we're doing it for cheap. We're doing it for cheap. We got the trucks in the area. My job is just taking a. I have a hard time in English. I don't pitch in English, but you're gonna how do you say this? Fill your spots. I'm here to fill some of my missing spots. If I'm able to fit you in, I'll take down the transportation cost and just make it really worth your while. Okay. And right after that, we'll transition to creating your need. My favorite question that I ask the customers right after my intro pitch is going to be, how long have you guys been living here? Or have you guys been living here for a long time? How long have you guys been dealing with the bugs? Just a question that's based like a little more rapport based. Oh, wow, it's fantastic. Oh, you're a veteran here. Oh, you're brand new. Nice to meet you. My name is Ella, by the way. So just knowing kind of what type of customer we're talking to. Have they been living there for 10 years, for 5 years, only for a couple of months? That's going to change my approach on how I'm going to be creating the need. So talking about creating need, I'm going to be getting a few guys talking about a little later. But for now, let me show you guys what a pitch looks like. So I'll get Jordan Fiddler himself. He's been doing this for quite a while. I'll show you guys how it's done and get his intro pitch in there. All right, Jordan. Let's get you in here.
Okay, usually I'm not sitting down, but we'll give it a go. So, knock, knock, knock.
Hello.
Hey there, sir. Sorry to bug you. I'll keep it quick. Insight Pest Solutions. Reason I'm banging on your door. Going to be out here on Thursday doing quite a few homes at this point. We have Sean, Mala, Ron, and Bill. His home actually backs on to yours. So no big infestations or anything like that. It's just the usual activity. So of course we got the spiders out here in the soffits, the ants and the mice. So just the standard pest out here, sir. Reason I'm at your door. If I can service you at the same time as the neighbors, we just do a really good group rate. We do everyone together and we do it for cheap. So the ants that you notice, more in the front or more in the back?
I don't know. Probably not a lot anywhere.
No big infestations out here. When you do tend to see them, is it more now in the spring or a little bit later in the year?
Yeah, this is when they kind of come out.
Okay. Small ones or a bit bigger ones?
I don't know, medium?
Okay, fair enough. That's what the neighbors are seeing. That's exactly why I'm here, sir. More in the front or more in the back?
Guess maybe a few around the pool, but not a lot.
Okay, nice. You guys have a pool out here?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Last year.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone seems to have a pool. That's typically where they pop up. Is it gate on the left or is it on the right?
The right.
The right? Perfect. I'll meet you back there. Okay, so a couple reasons why I say the things that I do. So I just want to come in really confident, and I want them to realize that from the bat that I'm important and I'm there for a reason, and I'm an absolute professional. So the biggest and most effective tool that we have in our tool belt is third party. So you'll notice that I reference all the neighbors that we do in the area, and not only do I name them, but I physically show the homeowner as well. So visually seeing it just builds a lot of credibility, gives you a reason to be there. The homeowners will start to believe and understand that there's pests in the area. And pests can be a bit of a touchy subject. No one really wants to admit that they have pests in their home, but if they see that Deborah and Karen and Tim also have ants, then they'll be more open to talking about their ants and their problems as well. So that trust factor is really important as well. And I would say you want to show at least 3 third party on every single door. So to not do it is going to make your job so much more difficult, but to do it is going to make the rest of your job so much easier because it just builds that credibility from the start. I also downplay activity. So you don't want to go in and say, hey, I'm here because there's a huge ant problem, or I'm here for the mouse infestation. People will say, oh, I don't have a problem. This service is for the neighbors that do have a problem, and they'll already just like count themselves out for this service. So you just want to set the bar really, really low so that everybody is above it. And then, of course, the real reason that they want to talk to you is because you can save them money, and people love a good deal, and that deal is the group rate. So now I'm going to bring in the wolf himself, Phil Pecco, and he's going to do it in French.
So, let's say I go toc toc toc. Oui, allô, c'est bien vous le propriétaire ici?
Ouais, c'est
Ouais, excellent. C'est que vous me voyez ici parler aux gens sur la rue depuis quelques jours. Peut-être vous demandez qu'est-ce qui se passe ici dans le quartier.
c'est
Ouais, ouais, justement. Je suis avec Insight. Je m'occupe de plusieurs des voisins ici dans le quartier. Peut-être que vous connaissez Marc, juste à côté. En tout cas, on vient de traiter sa maison justement pour les fourmis, notamment avec une trentaine d'autres personnes ici dans le quartier. Justement, ici, je vais avoir mon camion sur la rue ce jeudi, et justement pour traiter tous les gens ici sur la rue. Puis la raison pour laquelle je venais vous parler, justement, c'est qu'on fait un petit rabais là, pour les bébites. Il y a tout ce genre d'affaires-là qu'on remarque à ce temps-ci de l'année, justement à cause de la haute densité forestière qu'on a ici dans le quartier. C'est très sablonneux aussi, justement. Les fourmis, rien de trop fou, parce que pas mal tout le monde a remarqué là, à chaque année. J'imagine que vous les remarquez aussi à ce temps-ci de l'année.
Ouais, j'ai pas de problème. Voilà.
Absolument pas. Vous savez combien de temps vous êtes dans le quartier ici?
Ah, ça fait genre. Nick, ça 12 ans, 12 ans.
Ouais, ok, 12 ans, tu sais, fait que vous êtes les vétérans de la rue, justement, là, tu sais. Puis justement, je voulais venir vous parler parce qu'on venait s'occuper de pas mal de toutes les bébés, tu sais, beaucoup de gens dans le quartier, là, pour ça, exactement ça. So, that's kind of the general idea of the pitch there, kind of went on there. But essentially, yeah, I'm very casual in my tone. I think the key of the intro pitch, honestly, is less, you have to hit the points, right? So I hit all the points there, third party, all that kind of stuff. But it's really the energy that you're giving to the customer. It's how you're perceived. I'd focus really on that if I was you, because first impressions last. And so you need to give off a very chill vibe, casual, you're friendly. You want to maybe make the person laugh. You want to smile. You want to seem light. And so that's going to go a long way at the beginning of the presentation, right? That's pretty much what I would say. I mean, you guys noticed it in my body language, in my tonality. I'm really, really big on tonality. I think that's goes a long way of how you're being perceived. Just the energy that you're giving off is very key. So that's it for my intro pitch. So now we're going to be talking about creating the need, perhaps one of the most important steps in the sales cycle. Because most of the time when customers don't buy, usually the underlying reason is because of a lack of need. They'll give you an objection, oh, I have to talk to my wife about it. I want to think about it. It's not the right time of year, but it's usually because of a lack of need. And so you just really need to make sure that you get this step right before moving on to the sale, before getting to the scopes of service and meeting the need, right? And so creating the need, what that consists of essentially is based on two things. So that's educating the customer and being a detective. Okay, so being a detective, that's asking questions, obviously doing an inspection, and really getting facing the problem with them. So asking questions. I mean, you saw kind of in that intro how that looks. Where do you usually see the bugs? How long have you been noticing them for? That sort of stuff, right? And you usually want to at a certain point of the sale, just get off the doorstep with them and get into the inspection. So usually areas where we want to inspect, if they're mentioning ants on the inside of the house, you definitely want to get on the inside if you can. Usually like bathrooms, kitchens, garages, basements, that sort of stuff. And then if it's on the outside, usually around around the pool, there's usually like pavement ants around there, around trees, and sometimes you'll even find ant nests while you're with them. They're ants that they just never saw. And so that's why it's super important to do an inspection and also taking notes. That's something that we like to do out here, especially in Montreal, is just whipping out the contract and taking notes with the customer as they're talking about their pest and where they're noticing them, right? And so yeah, that's the main part about being a detective, honestly. And then educating the customer. So you want to educate the customer on why they're seeing the pests that they're seeing right now, and also why is a service like ours important and why they should use it. Because obviously, I mean, they haven't called someone yet, right? You're going to them, and so you want to be perceived as an expert, and also you need to educate on why is this a good service to have. And so you need to know about the nest cycles, how they work, why they're noticing them in those specific areas, right? usually where more moisture accumulates because that wood is a little bit more damp, and that's where they usually build up, and that's where it can cause damage, that sort of stuff, right? And so you need to know about that sort of thing, and how to approach that with the customer. You don't want to try to do a scare tactic or whatnot. But I'm not going to get into that right away because this is just an overview, okay? And now educating the customer on why they need to buy this sort of service, right? Educating them on why those little pucks that they're putting out in the spring, why they maybe aren't as effective as they may think they are. And so if you do those two things really right, if you truly make the customer feel like they understand what is pest control, if you make the customer feel like you truly understand like their current situation, those ants, then I mean, you'll be able to eventually really make a lot of sales eventually. And so that's creating the need. Thank you for listening.
All right, guys, it's me. I'm back. We're going to be talking more about meeting the need, the service, kind of what we do at homes, how we actually sell this. Because believe it or not, you can't just come to your home and just explain the service and they're magically going to want it, right? There's ways to actually sell this thing, okay? So let's quickly go through the service we offer. So first of all, we're going to be doing a barrier around the home, okay? Typically a liquid barrier we'll be doing around the home. That's really how I sell it. It's a barrier, we make sure, and then I sell kind of obviously the outcome, the results. We'll make sure the ants, the spiders, the earwigs, the millipedes can't get inside the home, right? We're playing defense with the bugs. Then we'll play offense with the bugs. We'll target them all around the property, okay? All around. So in French, I'd say in the mulch beds, those kind of areas. We're putting nesting stations, granulars, make sure the ants eat that stuff, bring it back to the queen. You know how it works, eliminates the queen, eliminates the rest of the colony. Okay, that's mostly how I'm gonna be speaking to the customer. We'll also be taking care of the spiders for you guys, going around the home, taking down every spider webs we see, making sure it's all clean. What the neighbors, John, what he loves, what am I doing here? I mentioned the neighbors, what they love, always using third party throughout the pitch. What he loves, we're putting a little dust in the soffits. That does, the spiders inhale that, kills them right off, and make sure they don't come back again. So they're not gonna be coming up, they're gonna be staying in the nest, okay? Always, you want to be quick in the service. You don't want to be talking about it for 10 minutes and saying which project we use. It's quick. People don't actually care. They only care about the results, about the outcome of the service. So focus on that. Same thing here for mice. What we're doing, we're going to be putting some bait stations around the home. We're going to make sure the population of the mice gets down. They don't get inside your house. And obviously in the wintertime, what we could come and do, wreck all the holes around the home, the weeping holes we call them. We'll come around, protect them, not block them off, or caulk them off, I think you can say in English, making sure that the mice can get inside. So usually these weeping holes, we say it's the kind of more creating need, but it's the highway to the bugs, which will make sure you seal that off, make sure nothing gets inside the home. Okay, so I'm really keeping it simple. A few things to focus on, always showing, never telling. So really, when I'm pitching, we'll be doing a liquid application. I'm going down on my knees, squatting, liquid application. We're going down, we're brushing down the spiders, showing where the weeples are, how we're putting it, how we're caulking it, always showing, never telling. Well, you're also going to tell it, but just don't just tell, obviously. You're also going to be always assuming the service on the home. Don't say, we might come and do this, we could come and do this. We're going to come and do a liquid application around your home. We're going to take care of this. We're going to come down around there, take care of this. Right? I'm always assuming the technician is right there right now doing the service. As assumptive language, they're assuming they're also going to be able to, they're also going to get done the service, okay? Next thing's up. Oh, we got a little glove falling off. Sorry about that, guys. Production error. Second thing is, I'm always mentioning, like, especially in my initial pitch, my first couple minutes when I'm talking about the service, instead of assuming the service on their home, I'm talking in the neighbor's perspective. What we're doing at John's house is a liquid application on the home, is taking care of the spiders, we're doing this. What we're doing at Mike's house, we're doing this, we're doing this. And again, guys, focus on never sell the feature of the service, but always sell the outcome and the result.
Okay, I am now going to be talking about closing. Now,
when it comes to closing, I think this is often the part of the sale that people get the most anxious about if they've never done it. And a lot of times, even if they have done it many, many times, this is still the portion of the sale where I think sales reps who sell anything tend to get a little bit anxious. One of the reasons that we oftentimes don't get the sale, believe it or not, is because we just don't actually ask for it, or we don't attempt to close. We sort of turn into information providers out there rather than salespeople. And although I think it's kind of been talked about before in this call that we don't necessarily want to come off as a salesperson, we want to come off as a pest professional who's there, to educate and offer a service and maybe do some inspection and find out what's going on. At the end of the day, when I close the deal, that is the customer winning because they're getting a good service that they feel that they need at a good price. That's me winning because I get to earn a commission, and that's the company winning because they get a new customer. So that's a win-win-win. When we don't close the sale, that's not the customer winning and me losing. That's actually all three parties, me, the sales rep, the customer themselves, and the company, all losing out on that. So we definitely need to be able to close if we're going to be successful at this job. We're going to make a bunch of money, and if we're going to move up to some of the positions like Jordan, Phil, and Elwal have talked about that they've kind of moved through over the years. A couple of years ago, I kind of came up with a way to really sort of break down how best to close a sale. And I'm going to call it the magic closing formula. Now, the truth is there's not really any magic involved in it, but it is kind of interesting that if you're able to hit on all 5 of these points that I'm about to talk about with you, it almost does seem like magic because the sale just seems like it closed itself. The first thing that I think is a really important part of the magic closing formula, and actually happens before we ask for the sale, is inspecting. So actually I'll list them all. There's inspecting, there's assumption in both behavior and action, there's note taking, which may seem obvious, but a lot of times we forget to do. I'm going to talk about why that's important. There's filling out the paperwork, which obviously we're never going to forget to do, but it can be used as a sales tool to actually help you close the sale. And then of course there's rapport building. And what the heck is that? And how on earth do we actually build and develop it? And why is it important? So starting with inspection, I think we talked about that a fair bit before, but it's worth mentioning because I find that on the sales that I don't make, that I felt that I should have or could have made, most often I look back and I didn't actually take the time to do the inspection. Now these inspections don't have to be long, 20-minute looks around the outside and inside of the house, inspecting every nook and every cranny. A lot of times they can be as simple as walking out on the front yard with the customer or pulling them out the front door with you, maybe a quick peek in the backyard around the pool or an area where they've had a wasp nest or maybe noticed some rodent activity in the garage. So these inspections don't have to be long, drawn-out things, but they're extremely useful because they definitely give you a chance to identify activity, educate the customer, talk to them and explain about why that activity is there, what it means, talk about meeting need, how we might actually get rid of it. But inspecting also gives you an opportunity, jumping ahead in the magic closing formula, to build some rapport, to talk to that customer, to get to know them a little bit, to have them get to know you. When we talk about rapport, if you're asking what is that? Well, rapport can be defined as finding commonalities between you and someone else. It's really that simple. The way that I like to build rapport with customers is I like to tell them things about myself. I like to tell them about that I recently got engaged. I like to tell them when I moved to Montreal and how long I've been living here, where I went to school, what I studied, where I grew up. I'll even pull out my phone and show them pictures of my cats and tell them their names. So I do spend a fair bit of time on building rapport or finding those commonalities. I often like to start that, like I said, with sharing things about myself. Because what's interesting and what inevitably happens is they start sharing things about themselves with me. We find these commonalities. I ask questions because I'm interested, or at least I put on my best interested face. I act curious. I want to know what's going on. There's nothing that people like to talk about more than themselves. And I'll tell you what, if a prospective customer likes you and gets along with you, that's going to make them a heck of a lot more likely to buy from you. And that close is going to seem a lot easier, almost like magic. Jumping back up the list to number 2, after inspection, there was assumption. And so when I think about assumption, I think about sort of 2 things, both action and then also speech. So I want to talk in an assumptive way. So I think Elwal was talking about it earlier, or maybe it was Phil. We don't want to talk about what we might do, what we would do, or what we could do for the customer. We want to talk about what we are going to be doing for the customer. So we're using this sort of present tense, or this rather very assumptive tense, where we're speaking as if we're going to be coming there and as if we're going to be doing treatment on the home. Next, after assumption, and behavior, talking about the most assumptive behavior. Well, that leads us into the next key point in the magic closing formula, which is taking notes. Now, this seems like a silly thing and maybe really obvious and easy to do, but I'll tell you, it's often overlooked. Taking out that piece of paperwork and starting to note down the things that you're talking about with the customer and where you're finding activity, that's a very powerful action. It shows the customer, A, that you expect they're going to move forward, because why would you write it down if you didn't? It also shows them that you actually care about what they're saying, and you want to make note of that so that when the technician comes out to their house, he or she has that information necessary to provide the highest quality of service possible. So assumption and note-taking really tie in closely together. In fact, taking notes is one of the more, if not the most assumptive action that you can actually take. Next on the list is filling out paperwork, and then followed by rapport. Now, we already talked on rapport, so I'll kind of close the magic closing formula by talking about filling out the paperwork. These contracts or these customer agreements that you're going to start to see and may have even been shared with already, they're not just customer agreements written in fine point. They have graphics on them, they have images on them, and they can really be used as a sales tool to kind of walk that customer through all the different things that we're going to be doing on the house, how the money back guarantee works, how the reservice warranty works, the months that we're going to be coming out for service, when they're going to be billed. All of this is outlined on the agreement. And I think that walking them through that paperwork as you're talking with them is not only obviously a fundamental part of closing the sale, but can also be a very powerful tool to use while attempting to close the sale. Big thing that we'll close with is you have to ask for the sale. One of my favorite ways to ask for the sale is just the schedule close. So after having gone through all of this, hit on all my 5 points of the magic closing formula, done a great job of inspecting and meeting need and creating need and great pre-impression, everything up till then. When it comes to actually closing the sale, my go-to is just to say, okay, so we're going to be out here on Thursday. Is it more convenient for you, or does it work better in the morning or the afternoon? A lot of times customers will then say to me, well, do I have to be here? If they ask me that question, I know with almost certainty that I've got the sale at that point. My answer, by the way, is always, was there anything that needed to be addressed inside? No, not really, just the outside. Perfect. No, we don't need you here. Or conversely, if the answer is, well, yeah, Jordan, we have some of that rodent activity, remember, in the basement. Oh, right, I noted that down. Yeah, of course, we would like to have you here then, because I'd love to get that technician inside the house on that first visit. Can someone be here in the morning, or is it better in the afternoon on Thursday? That's my go-to close. If you can hit on those 5 points of the magic closing formula, you are going to have a ton of success when it comes to actually inking the deal and getting that payment at the end of the service, which, by the way, is the final step to actually close the sale, because until we have that credit card and that signature, we don't have anything. A sale isn't a sale until they've actually paid for it. Okay, now that we've touched a bit on closing and the magic closing formula, I want to talk for a little bit about what to do if they don't just sign up and hand over their credit card and autograph the contract at that point. Now, if you've done a great job with your pre-impression, your opening pitch, your creating need, both in identifying activity as a detective and educating the customer as a teacher, you've done a great job of meeting that need with matching it to the scopes of service and the things that we can offer at Insight, like the money back guarantee, the reservice warranty, and then some of the great things that we offer on service and customer service. Well, you are going to get some people who, when you give them that close, they just say, okay, sounds good. Yes, Thursday afternoon works great for me. I'm going to sign up and give you my credit card for payment. We're going to get hurdles. There's going to be things that the customer says to us when we attempt to close that are going to prevent us from closing right there on the spot. These kind of break down into 4 categories. There's going to be excuses, there's going to be questions, there's going to be concerns, and there's going to be objections. Now, I like to call this section overcoming hurdles, because hurdles to me kind of encompasses those 4. Once again, excuses, questions, concerns, and objections. You may hear some managers, maybe even your manager, refer to it as overcoming objections. That's just because that's the easy way that we say it. But the truth is, there's a number of things that can come up after we actually ask for the sale. Let's handle the first one, excuses. Now, excuses we'll often refer to as smoke screens. That's because it's not really the real underlying issue. When we hear those early in our initial sales pitch, they often sound like concerns, or excuse me, even objections, where it'll be something like, oh, I have to talk to my partner. They're the one who handles this. You'll have to come back later. We're used to hearing that pretty early. That's just the customer's way right off the bat of kind of trying to get rid of us. Remember, we're an uninvited guest. We're offering a service that they weren't asking for, and we have very little credibility right off the bat. And so it's very normal and expected to get some excuses for the customer to just try and get rid of you. And really what they're saying is, you haven't caught my attention yet. So when we get an excuse, we want to avoid this urge to try and overcome it. Oh, your wife deals with this. Oh, your husband deals with this. Okay, when are they home? I'll come back. Should I look for a certain car in the driveway? I'll be in the neighborhood all day. When really what they were actually trying to say to you is, I want to talk to you. You haven't caught my attention. You haven't got my interest. And I'm just saying that it's my spouse to kind of try and be nice to you. So when we hear these excuses, which sound exactly like objections, and we hear them early or we hear them for the first time, we always want to treat them as an excuse. The way that we treat excuses is we acknowledge, we agree, and then we just go right back into what we were trying to talk about before. So the way that that can sound is knock, 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 pitch, pitch, pitch. I introduce myself. I tell them why I'm on the street. I reference a couple neighbors that we're treating. And then they say, oh, well, my spouse deals with that. You'll have to come back when they're home. They're not here right now. I'm going to acknowledge. I'm going to say, I get it. Sounds like you're not really the one who deals with the bugs in the household normally. No problem. I'm going to agree. You know what? In my household, same thing. We have certain tasks that my mom does, certain tasks that my dad does. So I totally get that. But have you heard what I'm doing on the street here today? So I like to acknowledge, I like to agree, and then I like to get right past that. I find the best way to get right back into my pitch is a really quick question to kind of snap them back into it. Again, excuses, smoke screens that sound like objections early, those are always just the customer saying, you haven't got my attention yet. Now, if we get a smoke screen or an excuse, or we hear an objection after we've attempted to close the sale, if it's the first time, we're still going to treat it that way. But if this is something that comes up again, maybe another minute later, or maybe they just raise it, they raise it again on us, so we've heard it twice. Now this is an objection that we may actually need to overcome. So we're going to talk about in a minute some of the most common objections and the best ways to overcome and address those. But the simple process for that we want to use is AQR. We want to acknowledge, then we want to ask a question, then we want to respond. So if it's now the second time I'm hearing this and they're saying, okay, but my spouse is the one who handles this, so I'm really not sure. Okay, I get it. I'm hearing you. I know you mentioned that earlier. So I'm definitely hearing that it's your spouse that handles that. So I'm acknowledging. I'm going to ask a question. My favorite question on the spousal one is, if your spouse were here, what do you think they might have to say about this? It's one of my favorite questions when I get a spousal objection or something I really need to address. Now they're going to tell me something. I'm going to say, okay, well, what do you think about that? I'm going to AQR, acknowledge, question, then respond when I get an objection. An objection can really be just defined as anything that is going to stop the customer from buying the service if you're not able to handle it or you're not able to overcome it. And again, we're going to talk about some of the most common objections in a minute. Let's jump back though. So we talked about excuses and we talked about objections. Those two are closely tied together. Now I want to talk about questions and I want to talk about concerns. Now, a mistake that a lot of rookie sales reps and even more experienced sales reps tend to make with questions is they kind of treat them like concerns, in that they give these really long, drawn out explanations or answers to the questions. So some examples of this are, is this a contract? An inexperienced rep might answer something like, well, yes, but we have a money-back guarantee, we have a retreatment warranty, don't worry, you're not going to be stuck in the service if it's not doing its job properly for you, and our technicians are licensed, and we only use the best products available under the local laws and regulations here, so it's going to do a great job for you, but yes, it's a one-year contract, but don't worry, you're going to love it. That's an example of the wrong way to answer a question when we're hearing it for the first time. When we hear a question for the first time, we want to give a simple answer. Is this a contract? Yep, for 1 year. Is the product safe? Yep, safe for around the house. It's the same product we use in hospitals and daycares. We want to give simple, concise answers, because when we give long, drawn-out answers, it gives the impression to the prospective customer that we're not very confident, or that perhaps, even worse, we've got something to hide. Now, there is a time for longer, drawn-out answers. If you get that question again, let's say it was the safety one. Are these products safe? Yep, totally safe around the house for you and your pets and kids. No problem at all. That's my simple answer. Customer brings up again later on, okay, but like, what about these chemicals around the house? Well, at this point, I'm going to have to give the long version of that answer. So that's when that goes from being a simple question that gets a simple answer, and that elevates to the level of concern. The way that we answer concerns really easily, just a more detailed answer. So yes, Mrs. Prospect, the product is safe around the house. The reason that it's safe, first of all, is we're only using products that are licensed and approved by both the provincial regulators, the municipal regulations, and of course, Health Canada. So you can rest assured that these products have been reviewed by 3 different governing bodies to ensure that they're really safe around the house. Second of all, we make sure that they're applied in areas where you're not going to typically come into contact with them on a daily basis. So even though that threshold of safety on these products is really high, our technicians are also going to be careful not to just spray these willy-nilly all around the home and property. Because of that, and because most of the products that we're going to use around your house here are actually going to be plant derivatives or plant derived, these products are going to be really safe around the house and you have no issue or concern at all. So that's kind of my long drawn out answer. So my quick answer to that was, is it safe? Yep, 100% safe for you, the pets and kids. My long drawn out answer is the one I just gave. Breaking these down one more time, we start with excuses, which can become objections if they're raised more than once. When we hear it early or we hear it for the first time, even if it sounds like an objection to us or something we have to overcome, remember, that's an excuse. That's something we just need to AA and move on. Agree, acknowledge, and move right past that. I think it's agree and acknowledge, maybe it's acknowledge and agree, but you get the idea either way. Questions, if raised again, become concerns. So first time we hear a question, we give that simple, concise answer. We want to give off confidence and show that we have nothing to hide. If we hear it again, we know that that's now a concern. Maybe not something that's going to stop them from buying, but something that they're going to need a really good, solid answer to that they feel comfortable on before they feel good to move on with the service. Combined, these are the hurdles that you're going to get. There's a little bit of art and there's a lot of science involved in this. So while hearing about this today is really good, this can't be everything. You do need to study this in the training materials, and you need to practice these before the season ever begins so that when you hear your excuses, your questions, your concerns, and your objections during the summer, you know immediately what they are and you instantly know how to answer them. Okay, I've got Jordan here to help me with 3 of the most common objections. We just told you that we were going to demonstrate some of these, so that's exactly what we're going to do. So I want to jump right into it. We're going to start off with probably the most common one that you're going to hear, which is going to be the spousal objection. So Jordan, if you don't mind, you're going to be the sales rep and I'm going to be the customer, and we're going to be sitting at a little bit of an awkward position here.
Okay.
Not how we'd be talking on the doors, but let's try and go through it. So give me a schedule close, and then I'm going to give you a spousal objection, and you're going to show everyone here how you would overcome that. And by the way, worth mentioning, this would be the second time that we're hearing these objections, because we know the first time that we hear them, we treat them as smoke screens or excuses by simply acknowledging, agreeing, and then going right back into our pitch, what we were already talking about. But in this example, this is the second time we're hearing about them, and this is going to be post-close. So this is after Jordan's attempted to close me. So go ahead and give me your best close.
Yeah, so Jordan, on Thursday, did the morning or afternoon work best for my technician to come by?
I should be home actually throughout the whole day, but
Okay,
I
great.
think before we get anything on the books here, I'd probably be smart to speak to my wife about this.
Okay, I get it. Here to kill bugs, not marriages. Is she home by chance? Is she on the inside?
She's not right now. She's out for the afternoon.
No, okay. What are your initial thoughts on this service?
I think it could be good. I think
Okay.
it makes sense what you've explained. If a few of the other neighbors are doing it and they're seeing some of the same stuff we are, yeah, I think it sounds good. But I want to run it by her, make sure I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. And that's exactly why we're here for the ants and the mice, just so you guys backing onto the field like we discussed. Well, with your permission, sir, what I'd love to do is come back when she's home and explain it to the both of you. So I don't expect you to be an expert on pest control. We have some unique differences that really separate our program from the typical pest control program. And I'd love to come back when she's home and explain it to the both of you so we're on the same page. What time does she typically get home?
Yeah, I think that would be fine. She should be home in, I'm not sure the exact time, but probably sometime next couple hours.
Okay, no problem. Well, I'm here till about 9 o'clock. And
Okay.
does she just typically park in the driveway there?
Yeah, yeah, she'll park in the drive.
Okay, awesome. And what color car does she drive?
Be the white SUV.
Okay, well, I'll make a note here, sir, to look for the white SUV. And yeah, I'll stop by when you're both home. I'll go over the program again and just explain how we're going to get rid of those ants along with the rest of the neighbors.
So you're just
out
gonna
here.
come back tonight?
Yeah, right at 6 p.m. or so when I see the white SUV, I'll come knock on the door and I'll make sure you're both home and we'll go over the program again.
Okay, yeah, you'll know that she's here when the car's in the drive.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Good. So that was a good way. That was a good way of overcoming that, though. One of the things that Jordan and I were talking about when we were planning the session was just kind of like one of the most common ways that reps tend to try to overcome that objection. One of the most common things that sales reps will do was they'll try and just get like the maximum level of commitment that they can out of the person, in this case, me, the customer, right there on the spot. Jordan, just quickly, like, what does that sound like if you're just like trying to get the maximum level of commitment you can from me right then and there?
Salesy, pushy, you're just there to make a quick buck.
Yeah, what would you say though? You'd be like
the role play of it?
yeah, just like quickly role play that, like what you might say if you were just trying to get like the most commitment you could out of me. You didn't really want to deal with coming back. You're just like, dude, I'm going to try and just close this guy here and now.
Yeah, well, I'd ask them their initial thoughts. You'd say, yeah, it probably sounds like a good idea.
Right.
I'd confirm that the wife doesn't like ants and mice, which is pretty obvious. And then I'd give them a quick out by saying, I'll write down my number. If the wife doesn't like it, call me and I'll take you off the route.
Okay, so you would like attempt to kind of schedule me. Maybe I might hold back payment and say like, okay, well, if we do it, then I'll give my card to the technician
Yeah.
when he comes. Or maybe I even give it to you now.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like, okay, if she doesn't tell you not to, then
Mhm.
let's do this.
Yeah, the cancel's still on the table and
Right.
it's definitely not selling through the contract and solidifying the sale. It's just kind of a hope and a wish that the wife is going to come home, be on board with it. But at that point, it's out of my control.
Yeah.
And it's probably a 50-50 if they stick with it or not.
If that, in my
Yeah.
experience, less than 50-50, probably more like 10 or 15%, maybe 20% likelihood that
Mhm.
sale actually goes through. Couple things, it's not a sale until I've actually agreed to do it, even if I've like tentatively scheduled a time with you.
Mhm.
And there's probably something that's still kind of bugging me, something I'm still not sure about. I think a lot of times that comes down to like need. I'm just like, I'm just not sure if I need this.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the great things that happens in that situation is if you can come back and speak to us together,
Mhm.
well, now you've got us both there. Maybe at the kitchen table, maybe on the front step, maybe in the backyard. It doesn't really matter. But I do try and get them involved when I return. And one of the mistakes that I really try and avoid making if I do a comeback to speak to the spouse is, first of all, I want to make sure they're both there,
Mhm.
not just one or the other. And one thing that I'll even say when I'm leaving to add to what you said is I'll be like, hey, can you do me a favor, Jordan? Can you try and avoid going over the price with her?
Yes.
Because the price without the context of what's provided is always going to be too high.
Yeah.
My guess is you wouldn't pay an extra $10 a month for something that you didn't think you needed and wasn't providing value.
Mhm.
And so certainly at a couple $100 once every 3 months, we know that's going to be a quick no for her unless we have the opportunity to kind of explain to her what interested you in that. I don't expect you to be any kind of expert on this yet after talking to me for 10 or 15 minutes. And so again, if it's okay with you, I'd love permission to come back and just quickly run through this with you together so that you can make an educated decision on this, which
Mhm.
is exactly what you said. You handled it absolutely perfectly. So
Yep.
a couple notes on that. Okay, next I want to jump into my favorite objection, which you're going to give to me. So I'm going to take the binder and I'm going to be the sales rep. And I want this objection to be, you do it yourself. Okay?
Okay.
So usually this will come out a little bit earlier than the closing point, but it doesn't really matter. The key here, remember, is I've heard this twice. Because the first time I hear I do it myself, I treat it as an excuse or a smokescreen. So I get it. No one wants to hire a bug guy to do something they can do on their own. But how long have you been noticing the activity? So that's how I might acknowledge and agree and go right past it the first time. Now, if you raise it again and you say, well, yeah, but okay, we'll do that. Do that for me. Raise that again for me.
Okay.
And so this is the second time that my prospective client is now raising this with me.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the info, but like I said, I just take care of myself.
Okay, nice. Well, hey, you've got to do something for these guys out here.
Mhm.
When you are doing treatment yourself, what are you finding that you're most commonly having to look at or do some treatment for?
The ants
Okay.
out here, the little bit larger ones.
Okay. So you have noticed some of them from time to time?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And how long has that or how long have you been noticing that for? Is that something that's more recent, or has that been going on for a while pretty consistently?
Been going on for a while. Like, it's just the normal activity.
Okay, pause for a second. The reason I love that question, if it's something that's been going on for a while, I can talk about how we should probably try to get to the root of that issue and actually resolve it. And if it's something that's more recent, that gets to be my reason for being here. Yeah, you know what? This year, this time of year, it's been such a cold spring or such a warm spring, or it's been such a wet spring or such a sunny spring. It's not that anything is true, but it is that like different weather brings out different types of activity. And so, yeah, it's been such a warm spring that, everyone's been seeing that same kind of activity. I know it's been a bit unusual this year, and that's exactly why I'm out here right now. Conversely, the other side of that, I know everyone's been seeing the same thing out here for years. That's exactly why we're out here trying to sort of really clean up that activity this year, especially if we're talking about ants, so that it doesn't become a problem for you guys later on. And I'm just going to go back into detective mode at this point. The reason I love, and my favorite objection is I do it myself, is because to me, that's the customer saying to me, I need service. In fact, I need service so bad that I'm already having to do it on my own. Now, maybe I'm really informed. Usually I'm semi-informed. A mistake that people sometimes make is they'll tend to focus on what the customer is doing. Oh, okay, you're doing it yourself. What are you treating for?
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? And the idea that we're kind of trying to get to is I'm almost trying to poke a hole in what he's doing so that I can tell him why he should use a professional service, why professional service is going to work so much better because of the things he's missing. That, unfortunately, will have the result of creating sales resistance, or that's going to make the customer feel like, oh, you're trying to tell me what I'm doing wrong? I'm not wrong. I've lived here for 10 years. I know how to deal with these ants. I've been dealing with them for 10 years. You don't tell me how to do this. I already know. And so that's what happens if we start to get into the sort of details on, well, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And what am I going to be able to do better? That is typically not going to work on a do-it-yourselfer. Way that I actually like to handle that is, what are you noticing? Where are you seeing it? How long have you been seeing it? What times of year do you see it at? Are they small? Are they big? Are they fast? Are they slow? Are they brown? Are they black? Whatever. I want to put on my detective hat, because I know that really what I'm hearing, if he's saying he does it himself at this point, is he's not convinced that he needs my service. In fact, that's like almost exactly what he's saying. I don't need your service. I do it myself. And so I'm going to go back to being a detective. I'm going to go back to being an educator, demonstrating both my knowledge in the type of activity that he's seeing, why he's seeing it there, their nesting, breeding, hatching cycles and habits. I'm going to demonstrate my knowledge, and I'm going to get back into talking about what scopes of service I have and why this service is going to do such a great job without asking what he's already doing, so that I can kind of find fault in it and find why you should use a professional service, because that's not going to be a terribly effective way of doing it. This call has been awesome. We've been really pleased to be able to speak to you today. Hopefully there's been a lot of value that we've given you. One thing I want to say is, please don't let these calls be the majority of the preparation or the training that you're doing for this upcoming season. These are meant to be a supplement and an introduction, but please go through the modules. Whoops, dropped my pen. Go through the modules, go through the videos, listen to Sales Superstar, backwards and forwards, front to back, multiple times. Listen to Door-to-Door Millionaire, backwards and forwards, front to back, multiple times. Combine that with the modules, with preseason training, get some one-on-ones with your manager. If they haven't offered them yet, now's the time to start bugging them. I know there's no way they're going to say no to you. And oftentimes we wait for you to come to us so that we can see who's really the keeners and who's really putting in the effort. If you take this job seriously, you're going to have one heck of a summer. Closing note, and then we'll just quickly pump up for the next call, which is just that if you treat this job like a summer job, you will get paid as a student. If you treat this job as a profession, if only for 3 or 4 months, it will pay you as a professional. If you treat this job as a profession, it will pay you as a professional. Next call coming up, we're going to be hearing next Sunday evening from the Island region. They're going to be talking about the mindset. Man, there is no one better to be coming to than Mr. Quinn Pauls and the entire Island region. These guys have performed at the absolute highest level year after year after year for many years. So many talented managers and reps in the Island region. I cannot wait for next week's session. Tune in, same time, same channel, and we'll see you next week.